Please don't do this. Please don't do this to me again. Please don't do this to me again.
What is up, my friends? My name is Danny. Welcome back to Jones Vibes. Today, I'm talking about Stranger Things Season 5, Volume 2. And as a super fan of this show, I have been heavily anticipating Volume 2, just like a lot of you guys out there, man. This is big stuff for us, for us fans. And getting those 3 episodes last night, I was just overjoyed that it was happening, you know what I mean? But as my wife and I watched all 3 of these episodes, time just continued to go by. More questions began to arise, and things just started to feel strange, no pun. And just like that, it was over. We have one more episode of Stranger Things forever, and my friends, I'm concerned. And so today I wanted to sit down and break down the things that I liked about these 3 episodes, the things that I didn't like about these 3 episodes, and also stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to be giving my predictions for the finale of Stranger Things Season 5. So first things first, I just kind of want to do a little bit of recap, catch everybody up to speed, what happened in these 3 episodes, and then go from there. So I'll try to do this as quickly as possible, just based on memory. Let's go. So Will, after discovering he's like a sorcerer and stuff like that, jacks into the hive mind, takes over Vecna, realizes he can do that, but also realizes that he is not nearly powerful enough to do that, and gets captured once again by Vecna. At the same time, you have Holly and Max. They're working through Henry's memories. They go into a cave. They find this cave of Henry's deepest, darkest memories. There's a briefcase there. We look at the briefcase. I think the mind flare is inside the briefcase, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. People have seen the first shadow or know about the first shadow, the stage play. Ain't nobody got time for that. I haven't been to Broadway. I have no idea what happens, but I do have a lot of speculation when it comes to that. Max and Holly then proceed to escape from Camazotz, but there was the big realization that it wasn't music all along. It was just Lucas. It was the love. And so Max has this talk with Holly, teaching her that she is Holly the heroic and she can get out of there. Holly does escape, but when she gets out, it's this crazy different dimension. She has no idea where she is, so she tries to run. She ends up falling through the ground and getting caught in the air by this crazy matter thing going on, which leads us to Dustin and Steve and Nancy and Jonathan. Nancy and Jonathan have this entire dialogue that is confusing as all hell. Apparently they broke up. I didn't realize they broke up. I'm going to talk more about that. Also, we have all the Steve and Dustin stuff. I loved the Steve and Dustin stuff. Finally, their relationship, all of this stuff boils over the top, and they work through their problems, but not before Dustin finds out some crazy stuff through a diary that Dr. Brenner had that he found in the lab downstairs. All of that leads us to discover that the Upside Down is, in fact, a wormhole that takes us from Hawkins to the Abyss. Still don't really know what that means, but we're gonna get there. But on the other side of things, everybody comes back together and they form this plan to basically get into the Upside Down, go through the bridge, and hopefully everything goes swimmingly and they save the day. But there's an entire other thing going on with Callie and Eleven, Callie telling Eleven that it was Henry's blood all along that gave them powers. And so now the military is going after them. That's the entire reason they're going after them, to get their blood. And so basically they have to sacrifice themselves to save the entire world, because no matter what, the military is always going to be after them and they can always use their blood. So the plan is for them to stay in there, sacrifice themselves. Hopefully everything goes well. End of story. Oh, and also Will comes out to everybody, including Murray, and there's a lot to talk about there. Oh my god, I've gone cross-eyed. And I probably left some stuff out. You have Henry with the kids, and there's all that stuff going on, but that's basically the gist of it. That was the gist of these 3 episodes. There was a lot going on when we were heading into these 3 episodes. I'm not sure if it really delivered on the stuff that we were hoping for, but there is a lot that does take place in these 3 episodes. There's no denying that. And so first, when I'm talking about these, I really want to break down the things that I did like about them. Again, I'm a massive fan of Stranger Things, so no matter what, watching these 3 episodes, there's stuff that I'm just going to absolutely love because I love this show so much, but there is also some stuff that I really didn't like, so I'll dive into that after. Starting with the positives, I just want to talk about Max and Lucas. You know, over the years, Max has just become one of my favorite characters. Everything with running up that hill in season 4, I think it was kind of a cultural impact moment that a lot of people hopped on board with that, but even more so from that, I just think Sadie Sink is a phenomenal actress, and same with Caleb. Like, Lucas's performance in all of these episodes is so freaking good, and when it came to that episode, that set piece with Max and Holly kind of doing a reshoot of the running up that hill, but with Max finally getting back, and that moment in the next episode at the very beginning of it when she's looking into the eyes of Lucas, I mean, that is so special. I was overcome with emotional, and I thought they nailed it. it. I thought they absolutely nailed the emotion of that moment, the emotion that needed to be there. I would also say Will taking over Vecna, that entire sequence where Holly is going through her memories and she's at the Wheeler house, and you have Vecna, or you have Henry, you know what I mean, or Mr. What's-It, he like changes into all three of them and he's floating, and then Will stops him and goes run, like telling Max and Holly to run. I thought that was phenomenal, dude. Like, that was so creepy. That was everything that I wanted out of the hive mind thing, but I'm also so happy that they didn't just like immediately make Will's powers absurd and have him like overdo it. You know what I mean? Have him like beat Vecna in some sort of way. He broke his leg, but then Vecna was like, nah fam, it's done. The next positive for me would really be the wormhole situation. When the camera went back that far to show that everything outside of this area is just like nothingness, you know what I mean? Just like a vacuum of space, but you have the entirety of the Upside Down, which is ginormous, and it's basically just this connection that 11 built that goes all the way to the abyss. I loved that. It was really complicated at first, which that's something that my wife and I have talked to. Like, there's the show Dark on Netflix. A lot of people absolutely love that show. That was a show that we tried to watch. We got like a season and a half into it, and it just ended up getting too convoluted and too complicated for us. You know what I mean? Some people out there might love the analytical side of things and the crazy sci-fi side of things. It's not really my bag, you know what I mean? But when it comes to the wormhole, I feel like they made it simple enough for us to understand it and kind of get on board with it. The more that I've thought about that, the more I've sort of fallen in love with it. I love the idea that that is what the Upside Down is. We still don't understand the November 6th part of it, though. And so when I'm looking at that, I'm like, okay, wormhole connects to the abyss, but what does that have to do with the Mind Flare? What does that have to do with November 6th? I understand kind of why Vecna chose Will, but at the same time, how did all of that take place, and why is Hawkins stopped in that moment? Is it purely because that's when 11 opened everything up? I don't know. It's still a little bit confusing, and that's one of those things with these episodes that I still have more questions than there are answers, and this show has never really done that. I've never been this confused about everything, and that's a little concerning heading into the finale. Anyway, staying with the positives here, though, I thought the aesthetic of the abyss, even though it kind of just looked like Nevada, I thought it was really, really cool. I thought when Vecna goes after Holly, and then when he gets Holly back, and she's like floating, and he's grabbing her, you know what I mean, and he's taking her back to his hand or whatever that thing is, whether it's the Mind Flare, I have no idea. Just the rocky look of all of that and Vecna's sort of fortress and all of that, I thought it was so freaking cool. I wish that these episodes were longer so that we could spend so much more time with that stuff. Hopefully in the finale, I'm really hoping that they pick up the finale just with Henry. Like, I hope it's a bunch of stuff related to his backstory, all of that. And then we get to the gang, like 20 minutes in, you know what I mean? After we're fully set up. I think that would be really cool. But I'm not sure how you guys will feel about this, but the whole Steve and Dustin thing. I know that I'm not alone, where in the first 4 episodes after watching them, I was like, dude, I love this show, but Steve and Dustin are 2 of my favorite characters, and what the hell is going on? You know what I mean? Not having that camaraderie is depressing. I love where they've taken the character of Dustin, you know what I mean? Like him walking the high school halls at the beginning of episode 1, and you're just like, dang, dude, this is a whole vibe now. But him and Steve going back and forth, and it eventually building up, it was getting a little bit annoying. But the moment where they actually start fighting like brothers, you know what I mean? That's something that brothers would do. Eventually you have to hash it out and get to a place where maybe somebody oversteps and says something stupid like Steve did about Eddie, even though he makes some valid points in the moment. But you get to a place with people where if a lot of stuff is said, if you don't care about them enough, it's very easy to be like, okay, I'm walking away. But when you truly do care about them, that even emphasizes the relationship more. And I loved when Dustin goes, Steve, like, don't do this, don't go. And he starts crying almost like a child, being like, dude, I can't lose somebody else. That moment was so freaking impactful. It was unbelievable. But the last couple things I would probably say on the positive side of things, I think people might disagree with me on this, but I'm loving the Holly arc. Like, every time it would go back to Henry's house, like the Creel house, and you have all the kids doing this and that, it just felt like Stranger Things to me. And the dialogue was so well written in those moments, these little kids chiming in and saying stuff. that felt more Stranger Things than a lot of the other Stranger Things stuff that's taking place. You know what I mean? I really like what's happening with Holly. I really liked her and Max's relationship, but then just having this weird hero arc for her in the middle of everything, I've enjoyed the time that we've spent with her as a character. I know that a lot of people are like, come on, let's get back to other people, but we have spent a lot of time in past seasons with other people, so they're trying to build her up in this, and I really don't mind it. I would also say, like, maybe a lot of that has to do with Sean Levy, and that's my last positive of this, is episode 6 is probably the best episode, if I'm really thinking about it. Like, it's probably the best altogether episode in season 5 for me so far, and that's not to say that, like, there was a ton happening. Like the end of episode 4, let's be real, that was the coolest thing that's happened so far, but episode 6 as a whole, Sean Levy's direction, like the entire hospital sequence with the Demodogs coming and like Robin's whole thing going on, but just it felt so much like Sean Levy's direction in that moment in season 4 when the guys are attacking the house and there's that like one-shot sequence of Mike, Will, Jonathan. I loved that so much, but also while incorporating all the Max and Holly stuff and all the Lucas stuff. Sean Levy is just a director that he gets it. He gets emotion. And I'm so happy that somebody like him has been around with this show as long as he has, and that he's still involved at this level, because I don't know, that episode specifically felt special to me. And I think a lot of my problems come with episode 7 and the penultimate episode before we get to the finale, because maybe had somebody else be directing this or some of the different writing things, maybe it could have felt a little bit different, but I was left very underwhelmed after episode 7. So let me get into some of my problems with all this stuff. Obviously, I have problems with 5, 6, and 7, so I'll kind of go through all of these, but I do want to start with Kali and 11 and that relationship. If you saw my reaction before it was taken down here on YouTube, but if you saw my reaction of episode 4, you saw me bawling when 8 showed up, when Kali showed up, because she's an underrated character. A lot of people hate on her. A lot of people hate on The Lost Sister as an episode entirely. I freaking love The Lost Sister, and her showing back up was just like, oh my god, just like mind-blowing. But what they ended up doing with her was strange a little bit. I understand kind of the arc and where they're going with it, but I will say, as much as they're trying to hype up this weird military subplot of the blood of Henry, and I get it, it's all backstory, it's exposition, it's stuff that we need to know. But with Kali being so concerned and like getting into the sacrifice play, it was all so serious so quick, and you also have her being very adversarial with Hopper immediately. There's character work going on there, but something about the relationship between 11 and Kali just kind of felt off. I'm not sure if there were enough rewarding moments for fans who actually were fans of Kali, you know what I mean? There just weren't the moments that I was looking for. Now, hopefully we get that in the finale. I don't know what is going to happen with 8. I don't know what's going to happen with her and Henry and 11. I feel like some crazy stuff's about to go down, so I'm probably going to eat my words a little bit on that, and obviously they don't have all the time in the world to spend with all of these characters, but that's another major problem that's happening here, and people have been calling this out for a long time, and I've actually debated about this, because I'm like, no, in season 2, people saying there's too many characters now, I'm like, dude, it's just Max and Billy and Bob, you know what I mean? It's nothing crazy, and as we've gone along, yes, the characters have piled up, but everything has felt earned, you know what I mean? But as we've gotten towards the end here, you have Robin bringing on Vicky, you know what I mean? You have this other character that's there involved. You have Mr. Clark coming into the fold. You have Karen in the hospital. You have Erica sitting there. I love all of these characters, but when you have all of these characters there, you have some of them that you're not really caring about too much, and some of them that you do, like bringing Mr. Clark into the fold. You're like, okay, he's there now. Wait, he's going into the Upside Down? Don't you dare touch Mr. Clark. He's the best. You know what I mean? And so I'm concerned about that in my mind while they're all of a sudden jumping over to something else, and then they don't really show much of what's going on, and then everybody's just out of there. And so when you bring in more characters, I feel like the more exposition you have to provide, and a lot of that just wasn't provided. I'd also just mention, like, bringing on all of those people, I wish that they would just be giving more to do for the core characters rather than bringing them on. Like, going and getting Mr. Clark, yeah, that's cool, but why didn't we just give more for Joyce or Hopper to do? Because because the lack of Joyce and Hopper in this season so far is a little bit frustrating to me. Hopper is one of my favorite characters in the entire show. Like, that arc between season 2 and season 3 and into season 4, he's just the best, dude. He's so badass, and the relationship stuff with him and Eleven right now is feeling a little bit off. Like, I want it to feel as tense as they're trying to play it up to be, but I don't really understand, because we've gone down the road of, obviously, he doesn't want to lose another daughter. Like, we all know that, but you can't just have Hopper doing the same thing, saying the same thing over and over and over. Like, I want to see him be proactive in this season, and I was hoping for the same with Joyce, dude. Like, my wife made a really good point where Winona Ryder, she's like the first Bill in the credits still, you know what I mean? Like, it is Winona Ryder. In the beginning, in the first season, she really is like kind of the main character of the entire show. One of them, you have the core group, and then you have her, and not seeing her have much to do in this, it's sad. I mean, it's just a lot of stuff with Will, but even the moments where, you know, Will has his whole thing, even those moments, you're like, she already knows, you know what I mean? Like, I want to see Joyce have something. I want to see a moment with Winona Ryder, an actress of her caliber. I want to see some freaking emotion, you know what I mean? I want to see something from that, and so hopefully we get that in the finale. If not, I think I might end up being a little bit disappointed by the utilization of them. It's not like you can really say much about a character like Murray or something. He's just there to provide a little bit of comedy relief, and it is what it is. But those are two characters that I'm disappointed in. Next, I want to get into just like some of the scenes, some of the moments. I have a couple other things I want to talk about, but really the main one is Nancy and Jonathan. I even made a TikTok about this earlier because I am so confused, guys. Like, watching that entire scene, there have been people that have posted about it on here, as well as freaking Twitter, and been like, how did people not understand they were breaking up? Like, it was so obvious. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. It had to be the writing. Like, I'm pretty into this show. I'm pretty into how they write things. Typically, things are very clear. And what I got out of that scene at the end of it was, okay, they admitted that their relationship was rooted in trauma. We got that. He brings out the ring and he goes, will you not marry me? And it's kind of a funny thing of like, hey, this was a little bit too soon, you know, and I don't think we're ready for this. But I still felt like they were saying, let's give this thing more time, more room to breathe, and stop forcing everything. And so at the end of the scene, they're saying, I love you to each other. I know there are amicable breakups out there. You know what I mean? I know these things happen. And so, like, I'm not unfamiliar with that. It was how ambiguous that entire scene was, because it got to the end of it, and my wife and I, we were both tearing up. We're like, oh, Nancy and Jonathan. Like, I don't care that much about that relationship. I don't care that much about the Nancy and Steve stuff. I've always kind of just been more of a fast forward. Like, I never fast forward, but try to get through that stuff as quick as possible because I just don't really care. And so going through that scene, I was surprised that I was feeling so emotional. I was like, oh, this is kind of sweet. But then you get to the end of it and you check Twitter and you're like, oh, the Duffer Brothers confirmed they have broken up. That's just strange. That's the first time, I'm not gonna lie, the very first time in this show where I've had to rely on something being told to me outside of the show to make me understand it. And that's just kind of an example of convoluted writing. It just felt a little bit all over the place. I didn't get it. Obviously, the rewatch now, knowing what it is, maybe it'll hit a little bit harder, but I did have some issues with that scene entirely because I felt one thing. I really thought that one thing was happening, and I guess a completely different thing was happening. And so a little bit confusing there. And then the next scene that I was just a little bit confused by was Will's coming out, and that entire sequence. It was well written, it was well performed, it was emotional, I got teary-eyed, you know what I mean? I just thought that the moment at the end of episode 4 was the moment. That was the moment where he realized who he is, what he has. He was well aware of everything, and you kind of just got the gist that everybody understood who he was. You know what I mean? Like, I know that that's a big deal, but the show is operating on such a different level, and there's so much going on, especially as we're hurtling towards this finale, that I thought taking that time to sit there with the entire room. You don't even have Hopper there, who's his stepdad, but instead you have like Murray, you know what I mean? And I think was Erica there? Like, there were some random people in there. I would have much rather, I know the Duffer Brothers, I was reading an article this morning saying that the Duffer Brothers originally had that of just him and Joyce, and maybe just him and Joyce and Mike. I would have have loved that. I think that would have worked great, but having this entire room of people sitting there, and then at the end of it, they're, everybody's standing up like, I'm here, it felt just weird. And when you compare it to season 4 and you have the penultimate episode of all of them sitting in the RV, things are so freaking tense. You have the song playing, the camera going through the RV, and you're like, let's freaking go, dude. Finale, let's go. This ending was just like, okay, like, yeah, the Will stuff, I get. He is like one of the most important characters, and I'm loving the fact that they're showing so much attention. They're paying so much attention to him as a character because he deserves it. He's been around. You guys saw me sobbing in my reaction to episode 4. Like, he deserves it. He's been around, and he does deserve to have this moment. I just didn't feel like it was the most necessary thing to pay attention to right where we are right now. I think that you could have had a sequence where he's talking to Joyce and having this big moment. Again, maybe that could have called in some sort of Winona Ryder super emotional moment, and it could have been awesome. But instead, you have this weird and kind of out of place to me sequence with all of these different characters, even Vicky sitting there and stuff like that. It's like, who is she? Like, why is Will telling that? I don't know. It felt strange to me. I know people might disagree with me on that, but I think a lot of this stems from my love for the character of Will and like what this show deserves, the moments that it deserves. And I'm very happy that Noah did deliver that monologue so well. I mean, it was phenomenal, and he earned that. I just think that it could have been done in a more tactful way. And when it came to that episode specifically, heading towards the finale, there's so much that we need to get to, and it just felt like we had so many unanswered questions just to end up at that scene and being like, yeah, no, we get it. Like, I get that, but what the hell is going on with the freaking Upside Down? What is going on with the Mind Flare? What's going on with Henry? And so now it really feels like we're heading into this finale, and there's just so much that we have to crunch in there. I don't get it. I didn't expect it. I know in like season 4, Nancy had that whole premonition of everybody dying, and she tells everybody that. And so you have this whole thing with Will where he's telling everybody, like, I have to reveal my deepest, darkest secrets so that, I can go in there and be safe, and Vecna doesn't use that against me. Like, I get it, but if you're gonna do that, like, I feel like at least with Will as opposed to Nancy, like, with Will, at least show us all of that so we can maybe understand the emotion of the scene entirely, because we didn't see any of that. Like, Vecna messed with his mind, but we didn't see it. So very interesting. There's only 2 hours left, and that is a big bummer. If you're a Stranger Things fan like me, I can't believe that it's really all come down to this. There is a rumor going around online that there's like a 40-minute epilogue at the end of it, or what I mean, or is it an epilogue or prologue? Sorry, I don't know. But there's like 40 minutes to kind of cool down from everything and say, this is where the characters are now, this is how everything resolved, blah, blah, blah. And so when you take that into account, if that's the truth, we have like 80 minutes to get through everything. It feels like a tall task, and there's been a lot of people saying that the Duffer Brothers pulled it off, and it's phenomenal, and you're not ready for the finale. I certainly hope so, because right now, this is the first time I've ever been concerned about this show. Truly, I'm terrified going into that finale. It's not like I'm even excited anymore. As soon as the first minute happens, I'm going to be like, please, just get to some answers. We need some answers, please. But I think it is a good time to talk about the finale, and I want to give you guys some of my predictions, and we'll see if I'm right. So I feel like it's going to start, and we are going to get a massive backstory dump of Henry. We're going to get the first shadow or whatever. We're going to get all of that stuff and really understand what happened. Personally, I think what happened is Henry's down in the cave, the mind flares in the briefcase, maybe it infects Henry in some shape or form. Maybe he goes to the abyss or whatever at some point when he's a kid and comes back and he's infected. I'm not entirely sure, but I think basically the root cause of everything is the mind flare infecting Henry, and then it kind of exists within him, and so when using his blood, that transfers to anybody else that, is basically involved. And I think now that Max and Holly have so much practice going through memories, and also Will has this practice of like coming to terms with who he is, I think that Henry's going to eventually make a turn, because the mind flare is the ultimate bad guy, right? and Henry this entire time has just been super infected with this thing. So I think they're going to get it out of him, and then they're going to work through Henry's issues, his trauma. I would imagine Henry doesn't make it in the end. I think that's probably going to be one of the big deaths, but they're going to work through all of that stuff just for Henry to get to a place where he can help. You know what I mean? And in a very similar way to Darth Vader, you know, picking up the Emperor and throwing him over, there's going to be something like that with the Mind Flare. Now, I think what'll happen with the Mind Flare is hopefully they figure out a way to kill it and the bridge isn't just severed and it still exists in that dimension. My thinking is that if Eleven and Kali and Henry all have the Mind Flare like within them, once you kill the Mind Flare, wouldn't all of that just leave them so the military can't even use that blood because it's not even in their blood, right? Like, so do they still have to do the sacrifice play? I feel like there's going to be something that happens there where Eleven can come back, but she's just going to come back and she's not going to have powers anymore. I also think Kali might die. I think that it won't be as impactful as a death for a lot of people, and a lot of people might be like, whatever, but I do think it would be good for her story arc to finally like see what's happening, understand the weight of everything, and understand like what it is to truly have relationships. She's had a lot of disjointed relationships, and I don't think she quite understands the relationship that Eleven has with Mike or that Eleven has with Hopper, you know what I mean? And just the entire weight of all of this. And so I think maybe she'll do like a sacrifice play or something like that. But at this point, I really can't see them killing off anybody else. I know we had so much speculation for years now about Steve or who's going to die, you know what I mean? Is it going to be somebody, one of the main characters? They just worked through so much with the Jonathan and Nancy stuff. They worked through so much with Will as a character, obviously Mike and Lucas and Max and Dustin and Steve. Like, there's just so many things tying this show to the ground. We finally have some like earned moments for all of these characters, and they're all in a really good place. And so I just can't really see them just taking somebody out for the sake of taking somebody out. The only person that I could see taking them out is potentially Hopper, maybe, or Joyce. I have no idea. I mean, I really don't. I don't know why they would do any of that, especially when we've gotten here. And so it's going to be interesting to see. The only prediction that I don't have is what the hell happened on November 6th. Like, who moved that lock? That's what I need to see. Was it Vecna? Was it 11? What happened that night? I think everybody is just so curious as to the vanishing of Will Byers. Why it happened, I mean, we get that Will was weak, and so that's why he was protected by Vecna, but like, why really? That's not a good enough reason for me. I need to know why that night. Why is time stopped on that day? They didn't bring any of this stuff to the forefront. A lot of the explanation in these 3 episodes was very sort of all over the place. They didn't say anything like that directly. And so personally, I need somebody to look into the camera and be like, this is what happened on November 6th. You know what I mean? That is what I'm looking for. And then everything else, I mean, like I was just saying with Henry and all that stuff, I think it's going to be emotional. I think it's going to be action-packed and crazy. I'm just hoping that they really deliver the goods in terms of the backstory and wrapping everything together somehow in 2 hours. We're going to see if they can do it. I'm feeling as nervous as ever after these 3 episodes, but I still have hope. I still have a hell of a lot of hope because this is the Duffer Brothers we're talking about here. They've made 4 phenomenal seasons so far. Hopefully they can cap this thing off with a big bow on top and we're all happy. But at this point, I do want to turn it over to you guys. I said a lot in this video. I want to hear from you guys down in the comments section. Do you think there's any validity to the stuff that I'm talking about in terms of speculation? Do you agree with some of the positives that I'm talking about? Do you agree with some of the negatives? Do you not agree? Totally fine to have a good conversation down in the comments section. I love reading your guys' opinions, and that's what this channel is all about. You know what I mean? Also, be sure to hit subscribe if you haven't already. I have a lot of really fun stuff planned for 2026, so stick around the channel. But more than anything, my friends, I hope you're out there keeping up the good vibes, and I will see you in the next video, okay? Peace!